Ezra Levant here for Rebel News. I am in a mall, a nondescript mall, where Ya'ara Saks, perhaps the second stupidest cabinet minister in Trudeau's cabinet, had an event. And can you believe it? She invited me. What are the odds? So I accepted the invitation immediately to come, and so did my colleague David Menzies and others. And we were on our way here this morning when we got the rudest email saying that the media invitation that we had received and answered and were confirmed, that the whole thing was canceled. Well, that doesn't sound very friendly. It's sort of like being invited to someone's Christmas party and then later being disinvited. That's downright rude. Not the sort of thing you'd expect from a cabinet minister who met with Mahmoud Abbas, the arch-terrorist leader. I guess what I mean by that is she's more scared of Rebel News asking her questions than she is of a terrorist leader. We were parked outside here for about half an hour, and we had my colleague David Menzies and Lincoln J outside, but she pulled up in a little red Mini and she's sneaking in a door, and the door slammed shut behind her. Here, take a look at the footage captured by my colleague Lincoln J.
Sneaky.
She's a sneaky one, that Ya'ara Saks, but in some ways I can't blame her. When she allowed herself to be scrutinized, not by the media, but by her own citizens, her own voters, a few weeks ago at the Pride of Israel town hall meeting, she was roundly booed and heckled. It was astonishing. I think there were about 400 or 500 people there, and half of them were shouting her down. Remember this?
Please join me in welcoming Ya'ara Saks to share her thoughts. Once again, I'm asking you to rise above it, put your signs down, or leave the room.
Ooh, so that's her own voters. But just a couple of days ago, she went to, some picnic. And the other side, the pro-Hamas types, heard about her. And she got it from both sides. Did you see this footage just from a couple days ago?
You continue to remain silent. You have the opportunity to agree to meet with your residents and constituents who are concerned about your silence and complicity in this genocide. Your hands! Blood on your hands! Blood on your hands! Blood on your hands! Blood on your hands! For 10 months, Ya'ara. 10 months you've been calling, emailing, showing up at your office. The members of the York Center community have been calling, emailing, and showing up to her office daily.
Yeah, it's tough being Ya'ara Saks. It's tough being a liberal in Canada these days because, especially on foreign affairs, they'll say different things to different audiences. What I mean by that is Ya'ara Saks will pretend to the Jewish community that she's in solidarity with them, but then pretend when she's with the liberal Hamas caucus that she's in solidarity with Gaza. You can't really have it both ways. Ya'ara Saks has some very specific questions, though, that she refused to answer. Remember a few weeks ago when my buddy David Menzies was granted accreditation to another event she had? It did not go well for Ya'ara Saks. Take a look.
Good morning. David Menzies with Rebel News. My question is for Minister Saks. Why did you travel to the Middle East to shake hands with Mahmoud Abbas, a terrorist who runs a pay-for-slay scheme?
Okay, so we're just going to be doing questions just strictly related to today's announcement.
I think this is a more important issue, given the state of the world, than what's happening now. And the minister has avoided these questions. Also, Minister, do you think it's a good idea that your government is planning on bringing thousands of Gazans into our country? These are people even Arab Middle East nations won't take in. Given what we've seen in the streets of Canada for the last 8 months of people chanting for genocide, surely you, as a Canadian Israeli Jew, you should have some skin in the game. What do you say to this decision? Well, I'm waiting your answer.
I know, we appreciate you're allowed to state your question, but I think that, I don't know if there's going to be a response today, but we really appreciate you coming.
Ms. Saks, I again ask you, why did you go to the Middle East to shake hands with a terrorist, especially post-October 7th? Why were you even in the Middle East? You're not the Prime Minister. You're not the Foreign Affairs Minister. Ms. Saks, your government invoked the Emergencies Act to shut down a peaceful protest. In Ottawa, you froze bank accounts of Canadians. We have chants of genocide and violence in the streets of Canada. Why aren't you doing anything about that?
Let me emphasize something about what David did there, is that his questions were put politely. David's a polite person by nature. He always says miss or ma'am. He doesn't swear. He doesn't get physical in any way. He just does old school journalism. It's so rare to see it. We are sometimes startled by it. David Menzies asked real questions, and Ya'ara Saks is incapable of answering them. Did you see her sneak in the back like some sort of fugitive? It was actually quite undignified and beneath the station of a cabinet minister. I should tell you, if she was scooting around outside, she must have seen our glorious truck with the firesaks.com billboard action on it. You know, of course, it's always going to be possible for a sneaky liberal to sneak into a building and sneak out if they're dedicated enough to it. And I admit that she got by us, although Lincoln spotted her. But I don't think that's a way to be a political candidate. I mean, you're basically acknowledging that the public hates you, but I don't think that's the way to be a cabinet minister either. Some of the folks from the social services agency behind me were a little bit frustrated that our being here caused the minister to delay as she circled around to sneak in. And I absolutely sympathize with them for this reason. A grown-up, a responsible adult who is ready for the burdens of being a cabinet minister should have the mental, physical, and courage abilities to take a question or two, even from critical media. What I mean by that is, you saw David's questions. They must have an answer. She must have thought about the answers. Ministers have legions of staff briefing them every day about what the issues of the day are and giving suggested lines. She's not a private person. She's a public person, a powerful person, and part of her job as cabinet minister is to answer legitimate questions from the public. That's my way of saying that if she were more courageous, if she were more worthy of the position she's been entrusted with, she would have walked right in these doors, heard a question or two from me or David Menzies, answered them without whatever answer she has, and walked right in to continue her event. But I think she lacks the moral fiber to be able to do that. She lacks the confidence in her own position. I think she genuinely is the kind of politician who will read whatever is put in front of her. I have a tiny bit of sympathy for her because it's so pitiful to watch. When she was booed in her own community, for a second it sounded like she was going to cry. But there's no crying when you're in the cabinet. Your job is to be on par with the other cabinet ministers, to go toe-to-toe with people around the world. What I think she demonstrated is that she will spend more time with a terrorist like Mahmoud Abbas. She will show more courtesy to a terrorist like Mahmoud Abbas than she will to her own citizens. I'm a voter in her riding, by the way, or legitimate journalistic questions such as those put by my colleague, David. Now, I actually don't want to bring any discredit to this worthy social services agency behind me. And they're not the reason we're here. We're here because Ya'ara Saks invited us to be here. And then when she saw our names RSVPing, she canceled in a panic. I am looking forward to the voters of York Centre indeed firing Ya'ara Saks.